Nox tumbles between the RHOD Lord's feet and runs the hell away, going as far into the sanctum hallway as he can. Provoking AOs from such a big target is just insane. Despite the terror she faces, Laika charges at Indravan, attempting to distract him long enough for the others to get away. She gets whacked by the Rakshas's chain, and simply bounces off his leg as she swings Vanangan. Kikini senses the opening and teleports herself and Linny onto the dais in the sanctum, leaving Laika to face the fiend alone. Linny fires of a dispel magic at Indravan, disenchanting the swords, which pierce the ground with a solid thunk. "It's just you and me, little puppy," growls Indravan. "And I can use this more than once." His ring glows once more, and the blades reanimate. "I'm more of a kitten than a puppy," manages Laika before the Grand Talon of Tiamat throttles her with his chain. Laika gets smacked by the first hit. The second hit catches her off balance, throwing her to the ground, and Indravan's follow-up injures her severely. Then come the great swords. Laika is able to roll out of the way for one, but the other sears a horrible wound into her flesh. On the ground and in great pain, Laika thinks fast, and so do the other party members as they look on the shifter's valiant but foolhardy attempt to save the softies. Holden decides to stand his ground, and Laika yells at him, calling him a coward for earlier sending her to her death and now not coming to her rescue when she needs it. He says, "I'm being tactical," as the others roll their eyes and consolidate their new battle line. Kikini pulls in Laika with telekinetic thrust. "I know it's not necessarily a valid use for telekinetic thrust, an attack power, but I let her do it anyway," who sails up past Holden and into the rear where Linny can heal her. Linny brings her back up to decent HP. Just when they thought they had the advantage of position, Indravan changes form. His face morphs to that of a large, snarling hound with a fiery aura and snaps his wings mightily, closing the distance between him and the party in one leap. He flies over Holden's head, and although Holden tries to take a swipe, it just doesn't do anything. Indravan lands in the center of the party's line, separating the casters from the frontliners. Much swearing erupts once more around the table. Nox pores over his scrolls quickly and pulls out the only thing he can use effectively: web. The sticky gunk immediately starts burning as it makes contact with Indravan's great swords, and Indravan succeeds on his reflex. In fact, he doesn't fail a single save the entire encounter, but the entangled condition takes effect and takes his lofty AC and attack bonus a notch or two. Nox then runs away, making sure not to get smacked. Unfortunately, the web entangles Laika as well, which leaves her in a pinch. Her AC is penalized, she's entangled, and the web is on fire, though she doesn't take any damage thanks to her dragonhide bracers. With the RHOD Lord entangled, Kikini teleports with both Laika and Linny to the relative safety of the cavern, leaving Holden alone. Laika gets herself back up with her healing belt and now laughs at Holden, who is left to face Indravan on his own. Her laughter doesn't last long, however, as Indravan's searing aura goes from heat haze to blast furnace. The flame leaps onto his chain, and in an elegant demonstration of grace and power despite his size, Indravan unleashes his wrath on Holden. The first chain swing rips hard into his chest and is enough to fill up Holden's damage pool and then some. The second misses, but the third tears a huge gash across his face. Both of the swords rise above Holden's head and each impale the dwarf diagonally through his clavicles. The blades magically extricate themselves from the Crusader's body, and he dies before he hits the flagstones. The players look at each other in stunned silence. The tanks, one of whom has just died, are useless, the sniper can't get a good shot, and the casters can't do much. There's just no way Linny can get to Holden's body in time to revivify him on her own power. Kikini then realizes that since her turn comes right before Linny's, she can teleport him half the way, though she still has to stand within Indravan's mighty 20-foot reach. Nox makes a run for the RHOD, and when the others ask him if he's out of his mind, he says grimly, "You need a distraction, right?" Conjuring up his newfound swordsage powers, Nox snaps a shadow garrote at the Rakshas's neck and slices through his fur and skin, injuring the now furious fiend for the first time. Laika hangs back, while Kikini teleports with Linny to within touch range of Holden, and then runs as far as she can go away from Indravan's whirling chain. Linny manages to make the check to cast her Revivify spell on Holden. The Tiger Fiend, seeing everyone lined up, unleashes his lightning breath weapon on Kikini, Nox, and Linny. Nox withdraws and readies a deadeye shot, and Kikini drops an energy ball on Indravan, taking care not to fry the newly revived Holden. However, he saves successfully, and his fire resistance, from Flame's blessing stance, so the party begins assuming he actually has immunity. Linny risks the AOO and blasts Indravan with a sound lance, visibly damaging his chest and tattering his robes. Before the Rakshasa Lord is able to get off another attack, Holden draws a divine surge, spins his maul along its haft, and smashes Indravan in the chest. In a spray of gore and in an enormous explosion of silver fire, Indravan's body is shattered and his spirit is sucked shrieking back to Khyber. The party eagerly looks over the loot, but unfortunately they realize that everything is one size too big to use effectively in the final battle. Nox, however, picks up Indravan's ring of dancing swords and the two great swords. Going by Taralanix's word, Nox examines the walls for the secret door and finds it after taking 20. They enter the hallway and first try the summoning room, enlarged on my map, since it was far too small in the book's map to accommodate creatures of Shabrirev's and the Godslayer's size. As Linny explains the purpose of the circle, Holden decides to break it to prevent any further summonings. They then take the door to Azarkul's quarters. Azarkul's Irini's concubines, already alerted by the tremor caused by Indravan's death, see the interlopers, and immediately teleport away. Crap, the party says in unison, forgetting that Indravan's rather spectacular death would have alerted everyone in the Fane anyway. They examine the rich furnishings of the chamber, and take particular interest in Azarkul's ornate Tiamat hookah. OOC, Nox's player tells Holden's player, "Dude, it's a bong. Dibs on the bong." The girls wonder why on earth Holden's going to take a 50-pound, how big is that thing, bong all the way back to Thrain, but the dwarf says he's going to keep it so he can urinate on it. Nox finds the 5 keys hidden within Azarkul's bed, then recalls Taralanix's info on the hidden treasury. After a further 20 minutes, he finds the entrance, and they walk right into the chamber, guarded by a barbed devil and a Nikalith. At this point, Laika's player had to go home, so Linny's player handled her for the rest of the fight. The PCs rush the 2 fiends, but Laika triggers the trap. The party doesn't have much trouble with the fiends, though although Laika gets grappled, is it a furry thing? I don't know. She always seems to be the first to get grappled, maybe because she's always faster than Holden. Kikini manages to grease the Nikalith, and since it stays on the ground to avoid the blast trap, Nox is able to sneak attack it with Indravan's flaming great swords, using up the ring's last daily charge. With the fiends dead, Nox attempts to disarm the blast trap, almost killing himself in the process by failing once. He succeeds a second time, though, and haphazardly opens the rest of the chests without bothering to disarm the traps. He saves successfully each time, avoiding the damage. The party assesses the contents of the chests and determines that there's nothing they really need immediately except for the massive potion stash in the green chest. I regretfully inform them that I forgot to change the contents of the blue chest, and that its current contents consist of vendor trash. Understanding my place and accepting my apology, the group decides to push on. They burn up all their last wand charges to heal back up to full. Seeing that the only way up is through the shaft in the outer sanctum, the party decides to use Kikini's Shnik Fly from the Horn of Abathriax. The party ascends as one, gulping down potions along the way. As they crest the lip of the shaft, the awesome sight of the inner sanctum greets them. The large, oval-shaped chamber is over 50 feet high in the center, and its floor is decorated with a grisly sight: hundreds of fossilized dragon bones. Thousands upon thousands of candles in Tiamat's 5 colors are perched on every conceivable nook and cranny, but their light is eclipsed by 3 things: the glaring colors of the enormous aberrant dragon marks etched all over the dome, the energy arcs pouring from the 5 15-foot-tall dragon heads centered around the dais, and the glow of the portal itself. Azarkul's planar orrery, made of polished black adamantine and composed of numerous arms, gears, and glowing magical spheres, hangs from the middle of the ceiling like some kind of monstrous chandelier. The portal, surrounded by glowing, twisted versions of the 12 dragon marks, yawns in the center of the orrery. The Irini's the party had seen earlier stand with their bows at the ready on the 20-foot-high balcony. Azarkul, in all his glory, stands before them in the center of the dais, standing even taller than Karn. His armor and robes are in immaculate white, contrasting sharply with his blue scales, and he holds in one hand an enormous mace capped with 5 dragon heads facing in 3 directions. A large shield hovers around him. "I knew you would come," says the high priest calmly. The party falls silent. "You've slaughtered everyone in your way. Anyone who opposed you was crushed and defeated, just like what I did to those who stood in my way. What makes you any different from me?" "I just want to help people," says Linny. "I only do what I have to," replies Nox. Holden offers perhaps the most solid reply of all, F. U. If we are all ready to kill, then there is only one thing we need to do from here on. Hexagrammaton. Lyca leads the charge, soaring over the steps of the dais and cleaving straight through the cleric's armor. The figment dissolves as Azarkol's chuckle echoes around the entire chamber. Holden swears and flies around, and so do the others. Kikini raises her inertial armor first, then flies to the balcony. All the while, the Erinyes open fire, attempting in vain to shoot Kikini. I knew I should have given them a couple of fighter levels. The PCs take positions on the balcony in an attempt to engage the Erinyes until Kikini manages to activate her Chinook True Seeing. She spies Azarkol on the ledge, casting spells. Holden immediately attempts to charge in his direction, but he smashes against an impenetrable barrier, anti-life shell. Seeing that it's impossible to get close enough, Kikini suggests that the party begin breaking down the statues on the ledge for her to use as telekinetic thrust ammunition. Before Holden is able to move, though, Azarkol stretches his scepter toward Holden, and Holden feels a powerful assault on his mind. He rolls once, sees that the roll was low, and uses Zealous Surge to immediately reroll, coming up with the exact same result. I announce to the party that Holden has just been dominated, drawing gasps from everyone. The party debates quickly what to do. Kikini can use Chinook Dominate through the Horn of Abathriox, but I rule that she has to make a Psycraft check to oppose Azarkol's Spellcraft check to see which command takes precedence. Since Kikini had few ranks in Psycraft, her player decides against it and decides to blast the Erinyes instead. Holden hears a voice in his head telling him to gain great glory for the Silver Flame, to embark on an epic crusade and slaughter fiends of untold number. The voice tells him to journey to Shavuroth and that it's as simple as stepping through the portal. The dwarf begins hovering toward the portal, stopping right before the entrance. Linny, with nothing left to do, casts Wall of Force on the same plane as the portal, blocking it. Nox does battle with the Erinyes, meanwhile, attacking one with Shadow Garrote. Kikini wonders what would happen if she disintegrates the portal, since Chinook Disintegrate automatically destroys 10 CUFT of non-living matter, but her knowledge checks tell her that doing so will probably set off a chain reaction that will at the very least kill all of them in a massive explosion, at worst, will destroy the entire shard seal. She instead fires off an energy ball at Azarkol, injuring him slightly, but she notes that her PP total is already critical. The party is unable to do much despite Kikini knowing where Azarkol is, and decide to go about breaking statues. Nox and Linny attack the two Erinyes, while Holden and Lyca dislodge the statues for Kikini to throw. This strategy proves fruitless as well. Kikini wastes more PP throwing the statues, which Azarkol's shield blocks effortlessly. Azarkol casts Visage of the Deity, completing his buffs, so Kikini tells Lyca to go dispel him. Her only option now is an area dispel, since she can't target him. Linny fires off her final dispel magic for the day, and Azarkol's Visage of the Deity spell is torn asunder. The players begin to wonder when Azarkol will attack, and at this point the fight has gone on for several rounds. We lost count already. Nox takes down the two devils along with Lyca, but the High Priest finally attacks, making a beeline for Linny and bashing hard clean across the face. Holden, seeing the anti-life shell is down, runs to Linny's aid. Lyca cleaves the last statue off its mounting, and Kikini uses her quickly dwindling energy to hurl it at Azarkol, again to no effect. Linny stumble hovers away and sacrifices her prepared Comet Fall spell to unlock her staff's ultimate power. The Quill of Orion enables her to tap the entire metaphysical library of magic in Aberon, and she does it to just get the one spell she really needs, Greater Dispel Magic. The powerful abjuration shatters all of Azarkol's wards and buffs, returning him to his normal state. With all his hard work gone, the cleric curses Linny and angrily smites her out of the air, ironically enough, with his own Comet Fall. A 400-pound icy boulder smashes Linny, tossing her like a rag doll. The cleric hits the floor hard and breathes her last. Lyca flies into a rage at the death of her friend, and shifts as well. She and Holden charge Azarkol together, easily making his now lowered AC. Nox misses his readied shot, though. The cleric, however, has Divine Justice enabled, and answers Holden's strike with his own crushing blow. Completely out of PP, Kikini hangs back and reverts to using her Dorhi of Energy Ray. Holden, however, is able to get in an extremely lucky shot White Raven strike. With the cleric unable to act, Nox and Lyca cut him down. That was too easy, they think. And they are right. Azarkol's fortunate fate spell triggers. At this point, in real life, a tremendous thunderstorm breaks out over the city, adding awesome atmosphere to the session. The 5 dragon heads' energy arcs link to form a massive pentagram of light, and this mass collapses and leaps into the high priest's ruined body. Tiamat's plans are not so easily sundered, he says as he stands up, drawing a scroll. As the priest invokes the scroll's words of fell power, a vortex of negative energy rises up around Azarkol, wreathing him in blackness. The fossilized dragon bones embedded in the floor come loose, and spiral into the field of necro-energy. Azarkol has just cast Death Dragon, although the players don't know this as Linny is dead. Now encased in a power suit of fossilized dragon bone and negative energy, Azarkol flies up to engage his assailants. His AC has now risen to a massive 39, and only the most spirited blows can get past his defenses. Azarkol attacks Laika first, his mere touch rupturing her skin and blood vessels all over. She angrily responds with a rabid bear strike, supplements it with Vonnegan's blood-feeding power, and cleaves off more than a third of Axe HP. Nox is henceforth unable to make any shots get through, and attempts to get his Shadow Garrote back. Holden attacks Azarkol with all his fury, but nothing gets through. The cleric rolls a natural 20, confirms it with another natural 20. He grabs Holden by the neck, and with a single word, practically exsanguinates him. Holden, now in the negatives, falls from the air, and in our minds to his death. However, thanks to his die-hard feet, Crusader FTW, and his boots of landing, he takes no damage from the fall and lands just fine and dandy at -3 HP, still able to act. He quickly activates his belt of healing to absorb the damage from his damage pool, and Kikini rushes to help him out. She force-feeds him one of the remaining potions. Azarkol addresses Holden, "You have seen the face of death. What did you see?" "I've seen it before, all right. And I'm not afraid of it anymore." The cleric smites Laika this time, but she's able to save against the inflict critical wounds, and continues her attacks using up the last of her action points. She's able to make her shots count this time. Kikini is able to deal humble but still helpful damage with her Dorhi, and finally, Holden lands a bone crusher. Azarkol's armor shatters, and his body flies backward and into the wall of the balcony. Slumped against the wall, with all of his internal organs shattered, Azarkol weakly lifts his head and speaks one last time. "Tiamat, my lady, you have heard my prayers." The cleric's eyes close and he dies with a smile on his face. The remaining energy from his body is sucked toward the portal. The portal glows brightly once, and then everything in the room goes pitch black. Soft light begins creeping back into the room. The candles are coming back on, one by one, but their flames each begin to twist into strange shapes, dragon marks. Before long, the entire sanctum is illuminated by 10,000 glowing dragon marks, pulsing with the colors of Tiamat.